and love to grab one after service today. But those are the things that I have.
Thank you, Tyler. Is anybody else got an announcement they would like to make? Not too many. Okay, let's go to our Bibles, and we're going to be reading out of James this morning, chapter 1, verses 5 and 6. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to you all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But if you let him ask for in faith with town of Warsaw, Kentucky. Did you even know there was one? But if you ever go there, Jules on Main starts a pretty good meatloaf there. So Warsaw, Kentucky is the home of, well, the guy that founded the Lilly Foundation, all of that, you know, Eli Lilly, you probably heard of him. So, there's a lot of advancement in science, technology, lots of intelligent people, and those advancements are good, but to use them, how to apply those are part of the wisdom. There are lots of things on the internet as far as biblical knowledge, and to be honest, if I wanted to, I could probably type in, I want a sermon on James chapter 3 verses 13 through 18 with illustrations and humor, and I probably could get a whole lot better sermon than you're going to get today because of that information and that technology. But then, of course, if I do that, maybe you learn and grow, but what does it do for me? Right? I just kind of regurgitate information that I receive, and somehow there's a difference between intelligence and technology and wisdom. In churches, people need to learn and to hear the testimonies and the life of others, and so they get ears that listen. And they hear wisdom from a person who's been through that or gone through something similar. And there are people who know Jesus and pray and are concerned, and that sense of being heard and compassion. And so James is trying to encourage us to have that wisdom that matters. And it shows up in the lifestyle, not just in the things that are said. And if you remember back in James chapter 1, he said, if anyone needs wisdom, he should ask for it. And we heard that read this morning. Just ask for it, but ask with faith without doubting, because if you ask with doubt, then you're not trusting that God will supply it. And without doubting, you don't get what you need. Faith is important. Wisdom that matters is part of our lifestyle. And I read a story about Wanda and Frederick. They were two rabbits hopping through the field, and they came upon a couple of carrots. One had large leaves, and the other had sort of mediocre leaves. And so Frederick ran up to the one with the large carrot, or the large leaves, and he pulled out that carrot and he began to eat it. And he noticed that Wanda got the carrot with the smaller leaves, but this carrot was bigger. How did that happen? And so he asked her, how come the one with the bigger leaves turned out smaller? And she said, well, you can't always judge a carrot by its leaves. And so they hopped along a little farther, and they came upon two more carrots, and this time Frederick went to the carrot with the smaller leaves, and when you know, the carrot was smaller than the one with the bigger leaves. And so he turned to Wanda and said, I thought that you said the small leaves meant it would be a larger carrot. And he said, no, I said you can't judge the carrot by its leaves. But it's also important to think before you choose. And so they went on to a third set of carrots. The poor, foolish Frederick didn't know what to do. He began trying to inspect those carrots, and he didn't know what to do. So Wanda smiled, and she hopped over to the carrots, and she pulled out the biggest one, and she handed it to Frederick and said, why are you giving me this carrot? It's the bigger one of the two. Why don't you want rub us the wrong way. And so James is trying to encourage us to desire that wisdom that comes from God. Why is it important? Well, there are three main reasons why wisdom from God is important. First of all, people need to be shown how. They need an example. And so, you might know Jesus. You might know about faith. You might have the best knowledge in the world, but if you want to share him with others, people want to see how that works. They want to see how it makes a difference in your life. They want to see the example that it really does matter. And so they need an example. They need to be shown how. The second reason that wisdom is important is because people want to know, why does this matter to me? You tell me I need Jesus. Why do I need Jesus? Well, and so we need to encourage them, explain to them. A lot of times, I remember back, those of you who have teenagers or little children, sometimes my wife and I would get in the biggest dispute because she said, you just tell them what to do and make them listen. And I was more about the one of telling them why they ought to do that. And so we'd sometimes get in a fuss about how do you discipline your children. I hope you guys don't do that, but I suppose that happens in every family, right? Well, people need to know why. Why do I need to know that? Why do I need to do that? Why is this important? Why does this need to apply to my life? And so, how does the Christian faith apply? Knowledge without a personal application. It's to know all of these things about the Bible, but not to have a relationship with the living God and to know that he hears my prayers and that he answers and that he helps me and that he's there for me. Those things, those are the important things. And so why is it important? Why is it important that we share our faith and our wisdom? A third reason that wisdom is important is that we need to be able to learn from our mistakes. There was a wealthy man who had a son that was getting in trouble a lot. And so this wealthy man hired a wise older man to teach his son how to stay out of trouble, how to make some better decisions. And so they took a walk through the old man's garden, and he looked at a little plant and he told this young man, would you reach down and pull out that plant for me? And so he pulled it out with his thumb and his forefinger. And then they went a little farther and they found kind of a tall weed. And he said, would you pull that one out? And so he reached down with his hand and he pulled that one out. And then they walked a little farther and they found kind of a bush. And he said, can you reach around and pull that one out? And so he pulled
still can remember an old guy named John in one of my previous churches. And sometimes I would just ask him. He was a great carpenter, woodworker, and built furniture, and he could make the front of the church look especially great with something he'd build or put together. And sometimes I asked him a question, and he'd have this little response. He'd say, "Well, I don't know about you, but if it was me," and I don't know all the rest that he'd say, but it's almost like he had this wise way of saying, really you ought to think about that before you do it. But he'd say it in such a way that, "I don't know if it's about you, but if it was me," and I still can hear him saying that long after he passed away. A need for wisdom and wise teachers in churches and communities in the world, and according to Ecclesiastes, we studied that last fall on Wednesday night, and Solomon said, "There's another bit of wisdom that impressed me as I have watched the way our world works. There was a small town with only a few people, and a great king with his army came and besieged it. A poor wise man knew how to save the town, and so it was rescued. But afterward no one thought to thank him. So even though wisdom is better than strength, those who are wise will be despised if they are poor. What they say will not be appreciated for long." But he says, "Better to hear quiet words of a wise person than the shouts of a foolish king. Better to have wisdom than weapons of war." Our wisdom, so desperately needed. We have weapons of war, and we're trying to manufacture more and more, and that race to be the master or the first to gain that AI wisdom, I think that's one of our country's biggest frontiers now, is to be the first to gain that ability. But what do we do with that? It's one thing to know why my car overheats on a hot summer day, but it's another thing to have the ability to actually fix that thing. The ability is one thing, the knowledge is another thing. It may be important to know that people go to church on Sunday, but why do they go to church, and why does Jesus matter? And so to have that kind of wisdom, recognition isn't important for the wise person. To being remembered, to be appreciated isn't so important. What's important is the community gets saved, or the friend of mine gets saved, or the young person that was making so many mistakes is seeing his life changed and turned around because of Jesus. James gives us two main points in this little section. First of all is that we need to know the difference between wisdom from God and worldly wisdom. Is the teacher or the speaker truly wise? Well, you can tell whether they care or not. You can tell if they live by what they say. You can tell if they're looking after the interests of others, not just themselves. If they're jealous, if there's bitter rivalry, all of those kind of things, disorder. And so the wisdom from above is what James says we need. And then James lists 7 little traits of wisdom. If you're seeking wisdom, here's some things to consider. And so in verse 17 and 18, he says, "The wisdom that comes from heaven is full of good fruit, mercy, and good deeds, and it's impartial, and it's sincere. And so those qualities of wisdom, and wisdom from above leads to a harvest of righteousness. He says in verse 18, peacemakers who sow in peace raise the harvest of righteousness. Well, wisdom from above leads to a strong church. Wisdom from above leads to a strong community. Wisdom from above leads to a family where there's strength and peace and growth and maturity, where children and grandchildren learn to know that this is a family that I want to be a part of. That wisdom from above, it makes a difference in the lives of the people that are in part of that. And so a wise man or woman may be recognized as wise, but hopefully they'll be recognized most of all as a person of God. I remember one of the guys who I always seemed to go to when I had a financial question. He was just that solid, godly person who didn't always tell you what to do, but he'd give you some ideas and some thoughts, and so that sense that he's not the boss, not the wisest person, but just the person that is. Well, when you meet with, when you have a question, when you have a dilemma, when you're trying to figure something out, who do you go to? That wise person. And maybe you know right away who you go to. Well, if we aspire to be that kind of person, someone who demonstrates our faith in Christ, someone who demonstrates an honorable life, someone who demonstrates caring and compassion and concern, then people begin little by little to benefit from that. Maybe they don't remember. Maybe, like Solomon said, the poor person doesn't get remembered, but the community is better because of that wisdom. The church is better because of that. And so the church and the world, according to James and according to the scriptures, needs men and women of godly wisdom. And so the challenge, of course, this week is that you pursue that wisdom. That you pursue those 7 qualities of purity and peace, love, and gentleness, and willing to yield. Sometimes you just gotta be still and let things go and get in an argument and fuss and fight, but sometimes you just gotta stop and wait and yield to good deeds and mercy that's shown, and impartiality. You know, if the answer comes back and you know that it's gotta go with somebody you talk to and they're always more concerned about themselves than about you, you think it's just that's not God. Well, this week, my challenge is that you pursue that godly wisdom, that honorable life, that thing that leads to peace, like here. The church and the world needs men and women of godly wisdom and the peace that comes with it. That's what we desire, that's what we need, and so that's what your assignment is, your goal is for the week of that. Pursuing that godly wisdom. Let's pray together. Lord, there are too many times in our lives when we don't know what to do, or we need guidance